Hello, everyone. Welcome to the big show. We got a lot going on today. I am Trish Regan. It is so wonderful to have you here as we climb steadily towards 1 million subs on this channel. It's just amazing. Make sure you subscribe, share, spread the word if you would, because we are here live daily with all the news headlines that matter to you. Today, we got a lot going on because you see Donald Trump last night decided to fire one Lisa Cook. She's a Biden appointee at the Federal Reserve. Okay, they've got like 7 governors on this board, including Jerome Powell. She's one of them. She was the first black woman to be appointed, but apparently, allegedly, there was some trouble in terms of her mortgages. It's like something that keeps coming up over and over and over again, whether it's Letitia James and those allegations or Adam Schiff and those allegations. Well, now we got Lisa Cook. So he said, bye-bye, you're out of here. She said, not so fast, and she went out and she hired Letitia James's lawyer. We're going to get into all that. The DNC is recognizing that it is a massive problem, and it cannot seem to get a handle on it. So what are they doing? They're having this self sort of introspection, and then they're trying to say, how do we move forward? How do we get back all those men? I'm going to tell you about their crazy ideas. I'll tell you, you know what, they should have just watched this show because we had some advice for them way back when. Did we not? CrackerBarrel's out with an apology. But I don't think it's going to do a whole lot of good. You know, it's kind of like, you know, you burned us. You burned us. We know what you're all about. SnoopDogg, he's out torching woke Disney. SnoopDogg is like, wait a second, I can't even take my kids to see Buzz Lightyear without having to have some really heavy conversations about why there's 2 mommies in the film. And Taylor Swift. Is this not a sign of the times or what, guys? She's actually getting married. She's engaged now to Travis Kelce. The news, it makes a little noise too. News just breaking again. Welcome to the program. I'm so happy to have you all here. This is major news here. A Federal Reserve appointee is being fired by Donald Trump. He came out with a Truth Social letter last night and said, Lisa Cook, you're cooked. Those are my words, not his. But she is basically cooked. He said that, you know, we can't have someone on the Federal Reserve Board that is being accused of having said her mortgage was her primary residence when I guess it wasn't her primary residence. But those are allegations at this point. So nothing has yet been proven. Nonetheless, he made it pretty darn clear. Here's the headline in none other than the New York Post. They're saying Trump is firing Lisa Cook. Lisa Cook. She is, you know, she's kind of a big deal because she is the first black woman to have that position. She was nominated in 2022. She was confirmed by the Senate. Biden, you know, this was one of his big signature moves because in the DEI craze, you had to have everybody check every single box. And this woman, apparently, she checked a few, but she may have checked a few too many boxes on the mortgage application too. We don't know that. I mean, this is just what's being reported. So Trump said he's ousting her. And a lot of people are concerned that this is because he wants a Federal Reserve that is, shall we say, a little bit more lenient in that they are not going to be jacking up rates. They're going to be lowering rates, thereby making money more accessible. There's an argument to be made for it. I mean, I'm somebody who doesn't believe in printing money. You know that. However, I'm also recognizing the reality that a lot of people are trapped in homes because mortgage rates are too high. And so you have all these baby boomers that, for example, can't sell their homes that they want to get out of. You've got people that can't move to new jobs because they can't sell their homes or buy a new home because of mortgage rates. And so a lot of people are saying, wait a second, how is it that she maybe was getting a lower mortgage rate when I can't on my mortgage, right? Like, because I'm actually playing by the rules. So this is a big deal. This was the letter, and we'll get back into the letter. But before I do, I want to show you the left's reaction because, you know, they're just, well, here's, by the way, Roger Stone's tweet on, he found like the most unflattering picture ever of poor Lisa Cook, but he's pointing out that she said her home was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and that was her principal legal residence, and she was getting a state tax break and a lower mortgage and insurance rate, and then 2 weeks later, she said her home outside of Atlanta was her principal legal residence, and she was also getting a state tax break and a lower mortgage rate, and he's saying, you know, look, this was insurance fraud, and this is what the president's going with, and this is why he's saying, you know what, you're out of here. And Pulte was the one to first discover all this, but the left is losing it. They're flipping out. Of course, I would say this, like if these allegations are true. Why the heck is she on the board of the Federal Reserve? Anyway, let's go first to MSNBC, where they have a former CNBC contributor on speaking about this issue.
Ron, even if President Trump can't fire Lisa Cook, if that's where this all lands, has the president sent a message to the rest of the Board of Governors?
I think we're getting past the point of message sending, and we are at risk now of the Fed losing its independence, because there are a variety of different things that are going to happen over the course of the next several months, including Jay Powell's departure in May of 2026. We had a Fed governor resign, who's going to be replaced by Mr. Mirren, who is currently in the White House. And if President Trump gets a majority of folks who support his position on the board, they will do potentially what he would like them to do, which is to lower interest rates irrespective of economic conditions. And then you start running into serious trouble. There's a paper that was published last year by the National Bureau of Economic Research that analyzes political interference at the Fed from 1933 to 2016 and shows, particularly during the Nixon era and a few other instances, that when this political interference begins, it pushes the price level up by as much as 8%, and it may last for some time. So if people hated inflation before, they're going to hate it a lot more down the road.
Things could get worse and worse. Are you hearing anything from executives or investors about this move, this pressure?
I've heard from some officials who understand that this process can be manipulated in a wide variety of ways. For instance, if the president were to get a majority on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, they could move to fire district presidents as well, who might not be inclined to do what the president wants to do. And so this packing of the Fed, or gerrymandering the Fed, if you will, is something that everybody's becoming increasingly worried about, because it will have adverse consequences for policymaking decisions and on the economy overall.
All right. Well, look, the president really doesn't like the direction of the Fed right now. He doesn't like the direction that it's been taking. He does want lower rates, as we've discussed, and I've written about it at 76 Research. Go over there today if you can, 76research.com. Use my code word $, DOLLAR. Then you get the 76 report for $1 a month for the first 2 months. Anyway, the point just being that he wants to see this loosen up and make credit more available for everyone. I would go back to this, what Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, was saying today on CNBC. It really doesn't make sense to have somebody on the board of the Federal Reserve Governors if, in fact, she's guilty of this, right?
But the issue is a federal government, a governor of the Federal Reserve, literally signs her name and commits mortgage fraud, right? It's alleged that she's committed mortgage fraud, and she says, I'm not going anywhere. Well, the crook always says, I'm not going anywhere. And why would anybody defend that? The real question should be, did she commit mortgage fraud, yes or no? And if you did commit mortgage fraud, please get out of the federal government, get out of the seat of the governor of the Federal Reserve, and go away. You don't deserve to be there if you've committed mortgage fraud. Right? It's black and white. If you've committed mortgage fraud, you shouldn't be a governor of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, like, duh. I mean, and this is what everybody was saying. Like, how is it fair if she, in fact, is getting a lower rate on her mortgage because she's got some kind of special deal where she's getting away with calling everything a primary residence? Now, look, hey, benefit of the doubt, maybe something else was going on. Maybe she had some kind of overlapping in timing. I don't know. But let me show you the documents. This is certainly suspicious. Apparently, she signed both documents, both Atlanta, with her Atlanta condo, and then her Michigan residence as primary residences. And again, back to Roger Stone here saying, you have one in Ann Arbor, Michigan as a principal legal residence. Then you have one in Atlanta as a principal legal residence. I mean, that's causing some concern. You understand, guys, right? Why that would actually enable you to get a lower mortgage rate. And that's because if it's your legal principal residence, the thinking is, well, you can always get a lower rate on that, because if someone is running into trouble, they're always going to pay their permanent residence first. The vacation home, you could walk away from, but you are more likely to pay the mortgage on your permanent residence. And so if somebody says everything's their permanent residence, well, then you're kind of scamming the system. So this is what she is alleged to have done. And Donald Trump's like, I'm not having it. Here's the letter that he sent out. He put it out on Truth Social. I mean, getting fired by tweet here. We've seen that before. Dear Governor Cook, Pursuant to my authority under Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States and the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, as amended, you are hereby removed of your position on the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve effective immediately. The Federal Reserve Act provides that you may be removed at my direction for cause. C 12 U.S.C. 242. I have determined that there is sufficient cause to remove you from your position, as set forth in the criminal referral dated August 15th, 2025 from Mr. William Pulte. He's the director of the FHFA, that's the Federal Housing Finance Agency, to Ms. Pamela Bondi, runs the DOJ, right? Basically, you have made false statements on one or more mortgage agreements, and a result of that, you're done, right? That this is actually a detailed criminal referral. So he doesn't want somebody who's being investigated for criminal reasons on the board of the Federal Reserve. Now, look, you got Larry Summers out there who used to be Treasury Secretary and used to run the National Council of Economic Advisors for Obama. And so he's really lefty and he's like, oh my gosh, how dare he do this? But at the same time, if in fact this, it looks to be as though she's got some problems there. In most jobs, in most gigs, you actually would lose your job as a result of that. Because as Howard said, you want somebody with these allegations. They will have to be proven out in court. I would say this, she's not taking this laying down. She, despite the signatures, etc., she's out there hiring Abby Lowell. Yeah, Abby Lowell. Name sound familiar? Ring a bell at all? Because, Letitia James, she hired Abby Lowell as well. So Lisa Cook has hired Letitia James's lawyer, and she said she's not going to step down. No way, no how. In fact, she came out with a statement saying President Trump purported to fire me for cause. This is a statement she made to Politico. So I'm reading from this. When no cause exists under the law and he has no authority to do so, I will not resign. I will continue to carry out my duties to help the American economy as I've been doing since 2022. And then Mr. Abby Lowell, who clocks in at a pretty penny, I wonder where all the money's coming from. Well, we know New York taxpayers are paying Letitia's legal bill, unless the GOP can do anything about it. But anyway, he writes, quote, President Trump has taken to social media to once again fire by tweet. Oh, this is not really a tweet, right? I mean, we don't really call it tweets anymore. Abby, come on, get with the times. It's on X. And by the way, he put it out on Truth Social first. And once again, his reflex to bully is flawed and his demands lack any proper process, basis, or legal authority. Cook's attorney, Abby Lowell, said in a statement, we will take whatever actions are needed to prevent his attempted illegal action. So this is interesting. The Fed has no immediate comment. So what happens now? Well, apparently she kind of, I guess, gets to stay in the gig and I guess gets to continue to vote on interest rates. I guess she's never going to vote for them to go down now, right? Even after we got more of a dovish tone at Jackson Hole just last week. Everybody was psyched because Powell actually sounded like, maybe he'd be slackening a bit on interest rates. Well, not this lady. Now this lady is going to double down no matter what because it's become this crazy political thing. So now you have to ask this question. You must ask this question. Who is next? Think about what's going on, okay, guys? Think about all the people. Well, we got them right here. Okay, think about all the people. Here's the list. We've got alleged mortgage fraud scandals, Adam Schiff for his primary residence in Maryland and in California. You've got Letitia James for her primary residences in New York and Virginia, as well as, her dad apparently is signing on as her husband. She said that she was her dad's wife. Lovely. Lisa Cook, primary residences, Georgia and Michigan. Like, what is the deal? Like, who does this? I'm sort of amazed. Like, you're in Washington, like you're living in a fishbowl, for goodness sakes, and you decide it's a good idea to save a few points on the mortgage by saying everything's your primary residence. If this is in fact the case, I don't think so. This is very, very, very strange. So now it's going to heat up. As I said, Abby Lowell says she's not taking it sitting down. She said she's not going anywhere. The president's like, hey, I have the authority, okay? This is my executive power. As the President of the United States, I have a solemn duty to ensure that the laws of the U.S. are faithfully executed, and I have determined that faithfully executing the law requires your immediate removal from office, lady. You're gone, Don't don't stop to look and say bye on your way out. He wants you out of there. So now the question becomes, who is next? Who else is going to get ensnared in these mortgage fraud allegations? And I think we know some of the answers. I mean, one of the obvious ones, of course, being Letitia James. This was her home in Virginia, that she said apparently was her primary residence. And now we're being told, oh, no, that's just a clerical mistake. That was on the power of attorney. Forget about the fact that she is attorney and she should know better. And so she's kind of facing a serious issue here. I mean, you can get up to 30 years, I believe, for this alleged criminal fraud.
James tried to prosecute the now President Trump in his second term. I just want to read a couple things. Criminal referral, then a response from James's office here in New York. James, for both properties listed above, this deals with real estate now, going back decades, really, appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms, all right? Her office responded by saying the AG James is focused every single day on protecting New Yorkers. Specialist administration weaponizes the federal government against the rule of law and the Constitution. She will not be intimidated by bullies, no matter who they are. The issue here is what property she owned and whether or not she owned it, whether or not she was married, and whether or not her father was involved in all this. Without going into the weeds of the details, this stems from a case in 1983 and the year 2000. That's a minimum of 25 years. Someone had to do some digging to find this. Am I right about that?
Yeah. Bill, the most I know about the case, I just learned from you. I saw it on breaking news this morning. This case was sent to us from Bill Pulte. We have not seen it. I inquired right before I walked out here. No one in my office has read it yet. We haven't looked at it. Of course, we'll be reviewing it. You just told me more than I've heard about it so far.
Hey, we aim to please with some breaking news of our own. Indeed. All right. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
So that was a few months ago, right, as this news all came out, but I just wanted to bring you down memory lane here to keep you up to speed. It is kind of strange. I mean, the father-daughter thing, right, with father-daughter mortgage. This is the Times Union reporting that he asked his daughter, then a few years out of school, this is the father apparently, to help by allowing him to add her name to the mortgage application. This is according to the lawyer, Mr. Fancy Pants, Abby Lowell, who's also representing now Lisa Cook, who got knocked off the Federal Reserve, although she's really kind of still there. We'll see what happens. Mr. James filled out the mortgage materials wherein he described their relationship as being spouses, and purchased the home without his daughter's involvement. So she's throwing her father under the bus, for goodness sakes. It's daddy's fault, you know? For goodness sakes, you're 24 years old. You're educated. Why the heck aren't you looking over your dad's mortgage documents when you're on them, girl? I don't buy it. I think it's all a big giant lie. However, James, then 24 and a college graduate, signed the notarized mortgage. Okay, so she signed it too. She doesn't even look at what she's signing, along with her father, on one of the documents, 3 pages that listed her as his wife. All right. Oh my goodness. I just, like, what, to save a few points? Well, I guess in this case, maybe her dad couldn't have gotten the mortgage because if he didn't have a full-time job and she did, I don't know. I don't know the circumstances of it. Frankly, I don't even want to know. I can't even believe that we're having to talk about this because I can't believe that people in D.C. are doing this. And you know what? Pulte's going to have a freaking field day because he's just going through. He's like, do. Larry Summers was trying to say, oh, well, this is quite common. I'm sorry. Like, in what world is this common? In what world? I mean, this is mortgage fraud. Like you can't dismiss this. Thank you very much. Under no circumstances should you be dismissing it. And it's just as Howard Lutnick said, why the heck do you want someone on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors who's been accused of fraud? Just like, why the heck would you ever want somebody as your attorney general who's been accused of mortgage fraud? Or frankly, as your senator from California that may have been doing the same darn thing. So Pulte's been very, very busy. Here's another article, I believe this one from the New York Post. He's talking about, of course, that Virginia home that James had. It reaffirmed that this would be her primary residence. Apparently the mortgage documents, despite the fact that, She's the Attorney General from New York. What is she doing? She says, oh, just clerical error. But again, he points out what I told you. Primary residence mortgages receive more favorable loan terms, lower interest rates, and than secondary residence mortgages do. And lenders view secondary residence mortgages as significantly riskier, as a residence mortgages are significantly riskier because a borrower is more likely rather to continue paying off a primary residence. Again, we've been through all that. Letitia says, no, I didn't do anything. Abby Lowell is her attorney saying she didn't do anything, but I want you to go back and listen to this. I've played this before. This is from MSNBC. Oh, actually not MSNBC. This is from a podcast that someone on MSNBC who literally is a dead ringer for Rachel Maddow. I'm telling you, you can get rid of Rachel and you're going to have no problem because you have someone named Chris Hayes, right? Who looks and talks and sounds just like Rachel Maddow. So Chris Hayes has a podcast, and Letitia went on there thinking it was friendly fire territory, right? But she couldn't answer this question. She refused to answer this question. She said, we're not going to get into this now. Just that I didn't do anything wrong. Kind of like Lisa Cook. I didn't do anything wrong. Abby must be advising everybody to say the exact same darn thing. Watch.
I will respond to these baseless allegations at the appropriate time and in the appropriate way, but I am 100% confident that it will not result in any criminal indictment or action against me, and that it is nothing more than a revenge tour, and that Donald Trump just ultimately got to the J's, and I was next.
The key allegation again, it sounds like you don't want to address a resident.
Wait a second. Wait. I have to just stop this for a minute. This is Chris Hayes, who could really, you know what? The MSNBC lights must be really good, and the makeup artist must be really good because he actually looks better, if I can say that, on MSNBC set. Anyway, I digress, but listen to this because she's looking off camera, almost like looking over at her lawyer when he says, hey, I get that you don't want to address these allegations right now. Okay, so let's go back. Watch.
Put it out so people understand that a property that was owned in Virginia and a mortgage that you signed, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wait, we got to go back further.
I don't want to address them here, but I'm just going to.
We're even further.
And I was next.
Okay.
The key allegation, again, it sounds like you don't want to address them here, but I'm just going to put it out so people understand that a property that was owned in Virginia and a mortgage that you signed, if I'm not mistaken, for that property, that they say you falsely represented yourself as a resident of Virginia, and that was essentially amounts to mortgage fraud since you're a resident of New York. What is your response to that?
It's baseless. Everybody knows I'm a resident of New York, specifically Brooklyn. And again, we will respond at the appropriate time in the appropriate way to these baseless allegations. And some media outlets like the Daily News over the weekend has indicated as much.
That's all you want to say.
See, listen, Adam Schiff is the next one to be in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Schiff, he's getting called out, and I think he's facing all kinds of trouble, and he doesn't quite know what to do because, well, Shifty Schiff is being, called out for the exact same stuff. You cannot have two primary residences. In his case, he's the representative from California, and he has a primary residence there, but apparently also has a primary residence in Maryland. Well, that's not really going to fly. I'll tell you, Bill Pulte, he's going hunting, and he's finding all kinds of stuff. So Adam Schiff was asked about this on NBC, and Shifty Schiff started to squirm when the question came up because, well, he doesn't really have an answer. I didn't say, oh, no, it's just all politics. Watch.
Adam Schiff has engaged in a sustained pattern of possible mortgage fraud. Adam Schiff said that his primary residence was in Maryland to get a cheaper mortgage and rip off America when he must live in California because he was a congressman from California. Now, the government mortgage company, Fannie Mae, says you're, quote, engaged in a sustained pattern of possible occupancy misrepresentation on several loans. Are these allegations true? How do you respond to them?
They're patently false. And the president knows it, in the housing agency, president's person, Pulte, knows it. He's essentially doing the president's bidding against me, against Letitia James, against this person on the Federal Reserve. mortgage is their new weapon to go after their critics. But I've been very open about my residency, both in California and in Maryland, with my constituents and with the lenders. So there's no there. But the common denominator is they will manufacture anything to go after their critics, after members of Congress to try to silence them, after John Bolton, after people in the Federal Reserve, after generals, after former presidents. They're investigating Comey and Clapper, the Obamas, the Clintons. Basically, it's free reign with a corrupt leadership at the Justice Department.
I'm telling you, I'm not taking anything that guy says seriously. Are you? I mean, he can defend himself until he's blue in the face. I still remember what he did, and I still remember all the lies he told, and that's never going to go away. And so I'm never going to trust him. I'm never going to trust any of these people. This is the entire problem with the Democrat Party right now. I mean, I'm not the only one. You guys aren't the only ones. You just look at all of America right now. Nobody is registering as Democrats. In fact, the Democrats are freaking out because there's a new analysis that came out in the New York Times. Go back and watch yesterday's show. We went through it in depth. Kind of in the first 20% of the show there, we went into all that, and they've discovered that they have numbers that are way lower. Like every single blue district is going red. And there's another story in today's New York Times about the Electoral College that's going, woo, red, red, red. Like it's hot fire red, okay? There's no Democrats left. Like, I don't know what they're going to do. I guess they're all dying off, and then you get a few crazy ones like Ma'am Dammy and AOC and Jasmine Crockett, and they're not going to get anywhere. So what's happened to the Democrat Party? They don't know. They're in a total crisis mode. They're having a meeting as we speak, trying to figure this out. And of course, they can't get out of their own freaking way. That's a New England expression, right? They just can't get out of their way because they've got all these stupid expressions that they use. Now they're telling each other not to use them. Anyway, I'll tell you, they've got to kind of figure this one out. Nobody can really figure it out for them because, listen, I've tried. I mean, all they need to do, right, is watch the Trish Regan show. All they need to do is watch this show, and we would tell them what their problems are. Instead, they have to wait for CNN to say they are bad, 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 and garbage, and bad, 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 like the CrackerBarrel brand. Watch.
Look, the Democratic brand right now has about the appeal with the American voter as the CrackerBarrel rebrand has with the American consumers. Bad, bad, bad. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness gracious. What are we talking about here in terms of big party registration changes in the key swing states? Let's look at the key 4 swing states that, in fact, do keep track of registration by party. Look, the Republican Party is in their best position at this point in the cycle since at least 2005 in all 4 of these key battleground states. We go out to the Southwest. Arizona. How about Nevada? Republicans haven't done this well since 2005. Oh, my goodness gracious, at this point in the cycle. North Carolina, I couldn't find a point at which Republicans were doing better at this point in the cycle. It's at least this century. It probably goes way back in the last century. And Pennsylvania, very similar. Republicans doing better at this point than at any point this century, at least as far as I could find. Now, what types of gains are we talking about here for the Republican Party? Well, let's compare it to this point during the first Trump administration all the way back in 2017. Look at this. The Republican Party gains in party registration compared to this point back in 2017 during the Trump first administration. In Arizona, you got a Republican gain of 3 points. Okay, how about Nevada? Up the hill we go, even though we're sticking in the Southwest. A gain of 6 points. How about, again, we come to the East Coast, North Carolina, a gain of 8 points for the Republicans. And in the Keystone State, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, again, we're talking about a gain of 8 points. My goodness gracious, for Republicans, they are converting old former Democrats to their side of the ledger, as well as picking up new voters, registering new voters, and it absolutely paid off for them back in the 2024 election.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? But you know what? Nobody should be surprised by this because all you had to do was talk common sense. All you had to do was actually speak to people like they're people. You didn't have to reinvent the wheel, but yet you had the likes of Kamala Harris, who couldn't actually string a sentence together. I mean, different reasons, right? We know that Joe Biden couldn't string a sentence together because poor Joe Biden was suffering from mental decline. So he never made any kind of sense. And then you had Kamala Harris, who was so... I don't even know what to say because the word salad was bizarre. I mean, it was like her brain was kind of fried in different ways. She couldn't actually speak in complete sentences that made any sense at all because I don't know. I don't know what was going on in her head. I mean, the things were like not firing, or at least not firing together. It was messed up. And then she brought in the likes of Timmy, Tampon Tim, to accompany her. And now he's out at this big meeting that they're having for the DNC, trying to figure out where did we go wrong? What can we do now? And I'll tell you, guys, little advice from Trish Regan. You need to ditch the likes of Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, AOC, Jasmine Crockett. You need a whole new crowd. I want to see people who believe in America, who believe in capitalism, and who believe in the strength of our middle class. You don't have it. And guess what? We do. This is all you got. This schmo.
To tell you, the privilege of my lifetime was stand beside someone we know was the most qualified and would have been a fantastic president in a President Harris. And look, we wouldn't wake up every day to a on TV and a bunch of nonsense. We would wake up to an adult with compassion and dignity and vision and leadership doing the work, not a man-child crying about whatever's wrong with him. May his fat ankles find something today. Petty as hell.
They really think that's going to help? Do you really think that name calling and saying silly things like that from that silly little man is ever going to help? No. Okay, you guys had no answers. That was the problem. And you wanted to go on and on and on about, I'm sorry, tampons in the men's bathroom. I mean, you just lose me, okay? You just lose America. And that shouldn't be that hard to figure out. I'll tell you this. Hillary Clinton got in a lot of trouble a few years back because she went on, maybe it was like around 21 or 20, might even been around 2020, 21. She went on one of those late night shows and she said, we got to get away from this trans issue and these sports issues and all this stuff. Like it's not going to play in Peoria, as they say. And she was just massacred. It's like her own party revolted against her. And my point is, you guys just can't get out of your own way. You keep repeating the same nonsense. For example, okay, what do you have? You got Stephen Miller saying we need to secure DC. You got the president saying we need to secure DC. We've got the president also saying same thing about Chicago, that we need to give people a better opportunity. At least, you got to be able to get to school and back and get to work and back in a safe way in the likes of DC or Chicago. And so obviously this is very much high on the president's agenda. He's working on it. And Stephen Miller has been out making the TV rounds saying we need to do this. And obviously you need to do it. If the one thing the government should be able to do, it's to secure your safety, for goodness sakes, right? Your personal safety and your property. Like that is the job of the government. I mean, I don't care. You may hate the government. You may be totally, really super duper libertarian, but guess what? The one thing you need government for is to secure your property and your personal being, okay? So now Trump's the bad guy because he wants to do that? Oh, you better believe it. And Stephen Miller, because he's a surrogate for the president and he's out there talking about the importance of securing Washington, D.C., is now called all kinds of names on CNN. You understand the problem we're in, guys. Watch this woman. I'm actually not familiar with her, but she's apparently a fired MSNBC host, another one of those, who's now over on CNN now and then. Take a listen to what she says about Stephen Miller. And you tell me, I mean, do the Democrats not have a problem? If this is their go-to move, I'm sorry, you can't just keep saying this about everybody that you disagree with.
Really quickly, Abby, because anytime that we play something from Stephen Miller, it would be journalistic integrity to point out that he is a white supremacist and he is the brainchild behind this policy. That's not my opinion. That's actual facts. And for him to purport lies from the Oval Office as a white supremacist,
I don't know.
it should be pointed out.
Aspersions.
It's reporting. Washington Wall Street Journal's own reporting.
I want to address what he's...
You want to address what... Okay. So you get what's happening. They are just going to continue to tar and feather anybody that they believe is not in agreement with them. And my point to them is you got to get over this, right? There's now a think tank type thing, Third Way, that's telling them, yeah, you got to get over this. You got to actually change how you talk. You got to change your phrases because, nobody actually understands what you're saying. And some of the phrases, I'm going to get to in a second. Again, I would just go back to, guys, open up your eyes. You're living in some kind of crazy world, some kind of alternate reality where like all this terminology, cisgender and the pregnant man emoji. I mean, it's all like gobbledygook or microaggressions. I mean, what the heck is a microaggression? To think that somebody can make a complaint to HR saying, oh, well, I felt like I was the victim of a microaggression because, I don't like the way Trish Regan looked across the room the other day. I mean, what the heck is a microaggression, for goodness sakes? Okay, so this is what they're tiling in. This is over at Third Way. Was it something I said? For a party that spends billions of dollars trying to find the perfect language to connect to voters, Democrats and their allies use an awful lot of words and phrases no ordinary person would ever dream of using or saying. It's true. The intent of this language is to include, broaden, empathize, accept, and embrace. The effect of this language is so like the extreme, divisive, elitist rhetoric that they're trying to get away from. Well, look at these things. Okay, so when they're talking about crime, they say effectively that, they're always on the side of the victim. And that's a problem because they call, people that are in jail, incarcerated people or involuntary confinement. How is it involuntary? I mean, you commit a crime. For goodness, it's like they totally forget about any kind of individual responsibility. Or these words, they're saying, don't use these words anymore. Things like, this is nuts. Birthing people, pregnant people, chest feeding, cisgender. I mean, I don't even know what some of these mean, like dead naming. What the heck is that? The patriarchy, the LGBTQIA. I mean, I had Q. You lost me at I and A and plus. Why not just put the whole alphabet in there? And then this stuff, privilege, violence, dialoguing, othering, triggering, microaggression, progressive stack, centering, safe space. For goodness sakes, enough already, right? Yeah, you should. You should outlaw all those terms. I think that you kind of need to rethink everything. I think that the insanity of the academic agenda crept in ways that are extremely dangerous, frankly, for the party overall. It's not good. Quick shout out to one of our sponsors here on the Trish Regan Show. We love our sponsors because you know what? They help make this show come to you for free every day. Have you ever flipped a supplement bottle around and thought, what are the ingredients in this? If I can't pronounce it, I'm not going to take it. And that's why I use Balance of Nature. Every single ingredient in the fruits and veggie supplements is exactly what it sounds like. Whole fruits, whole veggies, no binders, no fillers, no artificial colors, just real whole food, gluten-free, vegan-friendly, and picked at peak ripeness. You can get them 35% off at balanceofnature.com, 35% off with code word Trish. Make sure you use the code. They take 31 different fruits and veggies, harvest them, and gently vacuum cold dry them into a fine powder to lock in the nutrition. It's like getting a huge platter of produce every single day without the grocery runs and without the chopping. So right now, when you go to www.balanceofnature.com, just use my discount code Trish, T-R-I-S-H. You're going to get 35% off plus a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's on top of free shipping. So go to balanceofnature.com, use my discount code Trish, and take control of your nutrition naturally. Really, really important. The other thing I wanted to talk about is how great it is that poverty is crashing, life is booming, and you know what? You can thank fossil fuels. Isn't that nice? As we look at a market that's continuing to move higher, I will say that, there's a lot of things within the headlines that you're not actually hearing, like the fact that we're living the safest, healthiest, and most prosperous time in human history. In fact, since 1980, global extreme poverty has plummeted from 42% to under 10%. Meanwhile, life expectancy, incomes, they have all soared. And this transformation didn't happen in spite of fossil fuels. It happened because of them. Think of that. From powering clean water systems and food supply chains to driving industrial growth and life-saving infrastructure, fossil fuels have been the quiet force lifting billions out of poverty. So while activists like to blame fossil fuels for everything under the sun, of course, the data is actually telling us a better and different story. Fossil fuels have made Earth a better place, a safer place for people to live. And so you want to get all the facts. You want to get the full picture. You don't want to be fossil fooled, so to speak. Go to oilfacts.com. It's brought to you by NASDAQ-listed Prairie Operating Company, a high-growth, low-cost producer of safe and responsible American energy. Oilfacts.com. Again, oilfacts.com. I'll tell you, this is another company that should be paying attention, everyone. Start paying attention to the woke insanity. It's like they just missed everything that happened between Bud Light and Target. It's like they had their head under a rock or something. And that would be one Cracker Barrel. They're now out with an apology saying, oh gosh, we wished it could have been better. But this was their old logo, and they got rid of the guy, I guess, because he's the cracker, right? So now they're Cracker Barrel, and they've got this modern logo, and they're redoing all the stores, and people are upset. They're like, why are you doing this? So they said, okay, well, we're kind of sorry, but people are still kind of more than upset. And a lot of people are boycotting Cracker Barrel right now. I want to go to my friend Ashley, who's outside of Cracker Barrel for Fox Business, my former employer. He's a great guy, and he's reporting on the story. Let's listen in.
Even the apology is getting backlash. Cracker Barrel spending $700 million on a rebranding plan that they say will turn the product from old rustic to perhaps more modern streamlined. Customers say that's just a giant helping of biscuits and bologna. They don't like it. So after a week's worth of backlash, the Tennessee-based company did put out an apology statement of sorts, which said, in part, quote, "We know we won't always get everything right the first time, but we'll keep testing, learning, and listening to our guests and employees." But the mea culpa, well, it didn't go down that well. Critics called it lame, and social media lit up with comments like these, quote, "You kicked Uncle Herschel to the curb. Now you are paying the price. Own it and stop making excuses." Another wrote, "Eating Sunday supper in a place that looks like a car dealership does not say vintage Americana." But the company's new logo, let's begin there. A simple gold shield with the restaurant's name. But gone is the image of a man affectionately called Uncle Herschel, dressed in overalls, sitting by a barrel. The company also says stores will be decluttered with fewer knickknacks on the wall, with brighter paint and booths. Critics call that soulless, sterile, and woke. Erasing heritage, they say. Another part of the apology statement, though, went on to say, look, the things people love most about our stores aren't going anywhere. Rocking chairs on the porch, a warm fire in the hearth, peg games on the table, unique treasures in our gift shop, and vintage Americana. But you know what, guys? It's not just the criticism that won't go away. The stock price for Cracker Barrel has dropped 10% since this controversy began. That translates to about $143 million in value being wiped off the books. So, yes, Cracker Barrel wants to move ahead and wants this controversy to go away, but it's not happening anytime soon. Back to you.
Yeah, it's true. I'm actually looking at the stock today, and it's recovering a little bit. But part of the reason it's recovering, believe it or not, is actually because the President Trump, came out and said, you know what, let's give him a chance. And it's kind of magnanimous of him. He's like, look, they're trying. And he kind of gave him this second life. Let me see if I can read to you what he said here, because this was very interesting. He weighed in on the situation in a different way than Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom was like, oh, you went woke, you did this, you did that. But Trump, on the other hand, actually said something relatively nice. And he said, look, let's give them a chance. I mean, they're trying to move things around. And I think that support that they got, it's amazing, right? From the President of the United States, that little bit of support, that went a long way. And because of that, now, let me read to you what he said. Cracker Barrel should go back to the old logo, admit a mistake based on customer response, the ultimate poll, and manage the company better than ever before. They got $1 billion worth of free publicity if they play their cards right. Very tricky to do so, but a great opportunity. Have a major news conference today. Make Cracker Barrel a winner again. Remember, in just a short period of time, I made the United States of America the hottest country anywhere in the world. 1 year ago, it was dead, and good luck. Okay, so business advice from the president for Cracker Barrel. The question is, will they take it? I'll tell you, the Cracker Barrel logo would appreciate it.
And y'all know I sat on that damn logo for 48 damn years. Longer than a snake deep throating a giraffe neck. Then overnight, you got this DEI group of people taking over our marketing, talking about we need a rebrand. Then poof, how you gonna rebrand without debrand?
Cracker Barrel, you might be going the way of Bud Light. They might. Oh boy, you know what? We might actually have to call it a day here. Oh no, we're good. That was very strange. That was actually not a camera thing. That was like a Trish thing. The other, the CEO was actually on ABC News, and she was trying to spin this all as a great thing, and it just wasn't flying. So I think that, the company should probably take the president's advice at this point. He wants them to succeed. A lot of people want them to succeed. But, trying to go woke, trying to redo their little game, for example. Do you know the game? Have you guys been to a Cracker Barrel? They have this little game on the table, and they tried to make it easier for people because, if you couldn't get anything right, they would call you an ignoramus. So it was kind of funny. But you're not even allowed to do that anymore, in the woke world, which the Democrats need to get away from. Here we go.
You're a genius. If you leave 2, you're pretty smart. If you leave 3, you're just plain dumb. And if you leave 4, you're more than just a plain ignoramus.
Now that was the original.
That's the offensive version.
Now what's about now they changed it.
Cleaned it up. Yeah, so you won't be as offended.
The new one says if you leave only 1, you're a genius. If you leave 2 and the rocking chair, but not the game. Wait, if leave 2 and rocking the chair, but not the game. Okay, you're rocking the chair, but you're not rocking the game. Leave 3 or more, no reason to be embarrassed. Try again.
They misspelled embarrassed.
Which is embarrassing. Okay, so the reason they're doing this is it's woke. They don't like the first word and what it means.
The first word?
The first word in their name, Cracker Barrel.
What does that mean?
Because there's a man, and they're saying that could represent the man, and then he's leaning on the barrel. But this is what...
So now they decide. What great timing, right? Again, it's like they just didn't notice anything that's been going on for the last couple of years. For goodness sakes, I mean, I don't get people. I really don't get how tone deaf they really are. But they all are. They all are. I mean, even Disney is. Disney's the worst, right? Between Snow White and then when we have to suffer through Buzz Lightyear a couple of years ago. I mean, when SnoopDogg is coming out and telling you, Disney, you got a problem. I can't even take my kids to go see Buzz Lightyear because now they're asking me questions that I didn't think I would have to answer, right? I'm taking my grandkids to see Buzz Lightyear, and SnoopDogg, we deleted some of the funny words, but he tore them up. Right? As they should be. Come on, Disney. What was that about? It's a kid's movie, for God's sakes.
I took my grandson to see, what was the movie with Buzz Lightyear?
Toy Story?
Not that one, but
the new Buzz. The Lightyear. I think it's called Lightyear.
Yeah, with Kiki Palmer is in that movie.
Okay.
She plays like the daughter. So we watching it, and the lady, which is Kiki's mama, they move on into the space years. They move down the line. They're like, man, she had a baby with a woman. Well, my grandson in the middle of the movie like, Papa Snoop, how she have a baby with a woman? She a woman. Oh, shit. I didn't come in for this shit. I just came to watch the goddamn movie. Hey, man, watch the movie. They just said she had a baby. They both women's. How did she have a baby? Shh. Movie ain't over with. So it's like, it's fuck me, I'm scared to go to the movies now. Like, y'all throwing me in the middle of shit that I don't have an answer for.
Right. Poor Snoop Dogg can't even take his grandkids, to go to see the movies when Disney has to populate it with all this woke junk. The woke junk has to end. Democrat Party, I hope you got the message. It shouldn't be that hard. It really, really shouldn't be that hard. It's they're kind of, on the spectrum. They don't understand how everyday people think. They think that they can reinvent the wheel. Remember the lady over at marketing from Harvard University for Bud Light who just, wanted to get away from those frat guys. She had some other things to say about them. In other words, the answer was not Dylan Mulvaney. You don't actually just, discard the fellow who brought you to the dance, literally, in the case of Bud Light. Nobody's going to drink Bud Light again. I mean, you look at the earnings for that company, the beer sales are way down. And it was so easy to just switch over to Coors Light, right? I mean, it's harder in the case of Disney. Like, where else are you going to go? And I think other people are trying to get into that content space. I mean, YouTube, for example, has been doing a tremendous job at that. And we're going to see more of that. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that in just a moment. But first, a shout out for my company, 76 Research, our model portfolios. Take a look at that. Pretty great stuff. You can go to 76research.com. Just sign up for the 76 Reports, an introductory report and newsletter. We have another piece coming out today. It's just $1 a month. Or you can get all the portfolios or one of the portfolios. It's up to you, but take a look. I hope that we can help you in some way try to invest in this new economy. In the meantime, fireworks in Chicago. Wow, the mayor really doesn't want Donald Trump's help.
As the mayor of this city, I can tell you that Chicagoans are not calling for a military occupation. They are calling for the same thing that we've been calling for some time, and that's investment. What safe cities across America all have in common, they invest in people. And that's what we're doing in Chicago. We need the federal resources to make sure that we're building more affordable housing, expanding mental and behavioral health care, education, all of these things that could reduce crime and provide real community safety. Instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars for a publicity stunt to invoke chaos and terror, the federal government should spend that money on proven solutions to crime and violence reduction. We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down.
I think he needs to read the memo on the words, right? And specifically on the crime stuff. The memo that just came out from Third Way saying, let's get away from blaming society instead of the people that committed the crimes. In other words, the criminals are not the victims. Somehow it's racist, I guess, to put somebody in jail that commits a crime. Are you kidding me? And you wonder why Chicago is such a dangerous place to live. I mean, people in Chicago, they've kind of had it. They really had it. I mean, but this guy's off his rocker. I mean, he's the one who's out there saying, okay, we hire black people in Chicago, and we always want to hire black people. I did something on him a couple of months ago with one of these shorts because he was way out over his skis while appearing on CNN. Watch. Chicago once again, fanning the flames.
He's working to eliminate black history. He is trying to eliminate black existence from this country, but he's also attacking the LGBTQ+.
I wouldn't say he's trying to eliminate black existence.
I mean, even the CNN anchor had to jump in and say, whoa, you're going a little too far. He's just a little too far. I mean, so that's what they're going to make this about. And I'm telling you, it's not a winning argument. It's just not. If 2024 proved anything, it's that you can't run on these divisive issues of gender and race. You've got to be inclusive. And what is the GOP and MAGA doing? It's bringing everybody in, everybody in. There was just a woman out in Chicago talking about how everyone in Chicago, a lot of black people in Chicago are welcoming Donald Trump. They're welcoming him. They're like, hey, we need this. We want this. Please come to our city. Please help make it better. And this is not, it's not something that needs to be, how do I say this? I mean, it's not about color, right? Like, it's about opportunity. And everybody should have equal access to opportunity. But how the heck do you have access to opportunity if you're living on the south side of Chicago and you're threatened because there's gangs, there's violence, you can't get to work safely, you can't get to school safely? You don't have a chance. And so until the government fix that, forget about it. And you know what? Donald Trump's coming along and he's like, this has really not worked for you guys. So maybe it's time to try something else. Yeah, why not give it a shot? Like, this other stuff's not happening. Here's a woman out in Chicago talking about this. Again, featured on my Shorts feed. Chicago's going red.
I want to say thank you to our president, the people's president,
like I keep saying, the real MVP, President Donald J. Trump. Thank you, President Trump, for hearing us, for listening to us. We need you here in Chicago.
He says he's willing. And he is, okay? So he's willing to go there. He says he's willing to go there. And this is what Brandon Johnson is fighting so terribly hard right now. And that's what I consider to just be really, 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 really wrong. In other words, take the help where you can get it, buddy. He was asked a little bit about his hiring practices. This was very interesting. I think this was a Daily Caller reporter. It was featured on their website. Let's take a look at this because it's pretty racy. This reporter just totally calls out Johnson, Mayor Johnson of Chicago.
Racist. Mayor Johnson.
Yeah.
Please turn the mic on. Thank you. Real Chicagoans woke up this morning relieved that the Department of Justice is finally investigating your race hustle. As someone who grew up on the south side of Chicago, I've heard a lot of race hustlers in my life, trust me. But they were usually marching around outside of City Hall, which is what makes this so embarrassing and dangerous. For over a year, real Chicagoans, white and black, have been telling me that your black power rhetoric is bringing the city backwards from a place that
we need the question
had overcome. You want the question?
Please.
Real Chicagoans want to know, why are you a racist?
You know, first of all, I reject the idea and the premise that somehow that's an actual legitimate question.
You want that?
All right, we're going to go to the next one. Alice?
The next question, my follow-up question is a businessman, Robert Gomez, had his riverfront restaurant license yanked. You said that the reason you hire black people is because they're the most generous race on the planet. His riverfront restaurant license was yanked and given to a black restaurateur. That has, once again, reinforced the belief among real Chicagoans, white and black and Mexican, that you are a racist. What do you say to those people?
Again, I reject the premise that somehow that your question has any legitimacy. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. We'll go to Alice.
Thank you. The number one employer of our people is our people. What I'm saying is, when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet. The deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development is a black woman. Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief operations officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man. One thing that I know for sure that I have to do over these next 2 years, every single dime that our people have been robbed of, I want to make sure that that is returned 2-3-fold. We have 6 developers that have received the first $30 million for investment. 6 developers. Of those 6 developers, 5 of them are black and 3 are women. BOA Construction received the
You get the idea, right? So we've seen that sound before of him. He's got to get over this. All right, he's got to get over this. The people of Chicago want a safe city. And a safe city means, we're going to do this in a colorblind way. You saw that, Brett Baier from Fox. He was actually held up in D.C. by the police the other day. In other words, no one's safe. It doesn't matter, right? What color your skin is. What matters is that you're not committing any crimes. So stop with the, we're the victim stuff. Get over it. This is a new moment in history, a new chapter for everyone. And it's an inclusive chapter. And look, just in the last week, did you see these statistics? Thanks to Fox for this graphic. Look at that. Robbery down 44%, carjacking down 83%. I love seeing this. Let's have this happen everywhere, for goodness sakes. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with safety? Let's do it. We need it. We need it, America, right? We really, really do need it. I appreciate all you guys being here. We're coming up on 1 million subs, and it's just incredible and amazing to see. I hope and I think that the reason we've been so successful here is because you appreciate this authenticity. I mean, and it's really authentic, like frankly, a little too authentic. Given what happened with the camera today, that's what I call too authentic. But air conditioning is a little off. So, it's funny. When I was in television, I would always get so upset. I'd say to the producer, for God's sakes, can you please heat up the studio? I'm freezing up here. And I'd be in like sleeveless shirts and stuff. I'm like, I am frozen. And they would always say, well, we can't because of the camera equipment and stuff. I'm like, I don't buy that. I don't understand that. Well, now I do all things. Leslie was joking about me being good at tech. I'm really not, but I've had to learn to become. And now I since learned that, you know what? The studio guys were right. There's a reason that they needed the studio to be super cold. And that's because if the camera gets too hot, it kind of overheats. And so what you saw me do is run up and just turn it off for a moment and then turn it back on. But we'll get the air conditioning fixed and hopefully that won't be happening so much anymore. But like I said, it is authentic in so many ways. Somebody else in the chat said to me that one of the things that they loved about this format is that I have no scripts, and it's just very, it's very natural. It's me talking, and they can see much more of my personality than I was ever allowed to do before. And I agree with you. I feel like I'm sort of emboldened to do all that. You might see me working over here on the computer. That's me pulling up elements because I want to make sure I get the right elements for you in real time. So when you see me looking over, the other thing I'm doing is I'm looking at your comments. So, we have so many, David, thank you so much for the nice compliment. I appreciate it. David Lorenzo, who's here quite regularly. Don's advising I get a new camera. No, it is a new camera. And I actually love this camera. I love it. I just need to make sure that the air conditioning, which is on some kind of automatic timer, I'm telling you, it's too much tech. It's too much tech. And for whatever reason, at this hour, it's not as cold as it should be, but we'll get it fixed. I promise. Thank you, Time Chaser. I appreciate it. I love that you guys watch. He says there's zero reason for my camera to overheat. Well, you'd be surprised. There's lights in here. There's a lot of lights on, and it's a camera that's quite precious, shall we say. It's quite temperamental. It's a new one, but it's a good one. So we'll see. Anyway, it's lovely to have you all here, and I take your advice, Gary, on the volume between the clips. That's part of the problem with being live. Okay, so part of the issue is unless I have some sound person, and I don't even know how we'd quite do that. But part of the issue with being live is that. And so what I usually do is my team takes this and puts it into a sound thing after the fact so that all gets evened out. But during the live show, that's a bit tricky to do and would probably take a lot of time if we were to try and manipulate each and every sound. So it's like this trade-off. It's like, do I do it live or do I do a premiere? And I came to the conclusion that I enjoy being live. I really do. And I enjoy this connection with you. I like being able to read everything that you guys are saying in real time. And so I'm willing to, hopefully you are too, put up with some of the tech inconsistencies. And, otherwise we could make it quite beautiful and quite lovely, but then it would all be pre-recorded. Like most podcasts, they pre-record them and then they edit them and they fix them. And I don't want that. I actually just want to, do it live, as they say. I think there's this great clip on the internet of Bill O'Reilly from like a zillion years ago saying something like that. He didn't want to do it live. I love being live. I get a certain kind of energy from all of you tuning in and all of you watching, and that's very rewarding for me. I know, Dawn, I could get a webcam, but then it wouldn't look as pretty, right? Like I want a nice, pretty camera that delivers a pretty picture in 4K. So all of that becomes very tricky. Anyway, hello. Somebody's saying they just made it. We're just wrapping up here, but thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to have much more for you live again on the Trish Regan Show tomorrow. Spread the word. Make sure you subscribe. Do me that favor. Hit a like button and make a comment. I'll see you tomorrow.